What's poppin'? Miss Evans on the beat, so tap in. You got options, but you better pass my class, no flopping. Gon' log in every day, every morning I'm watching. Yeah, we virtual and you know it's up, so we about to take it up a notch. Yeah, my role was the best, no comparing. We had to top our truth, no daring. CTA, E5, arts and sports. Man, I want it all to myself, no sharing. COVID-19 had a stress, but it's nothing. We gon' overcome that stacks, no bluffing. Wear your mask, wash your hands, keep safe distance, cause I really thought that a pandemic said something. Understand we do more than rap. Doing all we can just to get you out the trap. Teaching up, lifting, motivating, and engaging our students going straight to the top, no cap.
Period. No stopping. We mopping. Yeah. Net away. You know Miss Evans don't play. Yeah.
What's poppin'? Brand new year and I'm locked in. Far as this teaching go, I am unreachable. I'm number one in your top 10. Miss Williams, been poppin'. 2020 new school year dropping. No COVID-19, ain't worried about a thing when it come to me, ain't no stopping. I can teach a class with rap, this drip hard. Go ahead, take a picture on your iPhone. 2020 school year, yeah, virtual. And you know Miss Williams go viral. Talk to school, I'm a fool with the lesson. Come learn with me, I swear it's a blessing. Classes in session, no, we just progressing. Success is the topic and passes the message. Woo! My school is the best, there's no competition. We at the top, no switching positions. The road number one, tornado, let's get it.
Yeah. That gold. Tornado, let's go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Black Education Conference. We made it.
I'm so excited.
I am so excited. We are just ecstatic. We've been putting this thing together for y'all, and we are just so hyped to be a part of it. You're probably wondering who are these people on your screen, so we're all going to introduce ourselves. I am Eva Jean Charles. I'm the founder of Black on Black Education. Black on Black Education is an organization committed to Black students, and we want to make sure that they are getting their needs met. We're walking into an unprecedented time, an unprecedented school year, and so we want to make sure that we're coming together to have conversation about how we support Black students. And we have a podcast, we have events that we hold, and so I'm going to kick it to Mr. Jamal Thomas, who also happens to be my father, to introduce himself to y'all.
I can't punish her in front of everybody, because she's called me Jamal Thomas, but it's okay in this particular situation. But yeah, I'm Jamal Thomas. I am a businessman, entrepreneur for most of my life, but I'm above and beyond an education enthusiast. If this world is going to be the world that we want it to be, we are going to have to teach our babies better. And when Eva came to me to tell me about us doing this conference and Black on Black education in general, I couldn't have been more excited to jump in and support her as a co-founder. So, Saray.
Hey, everybody. My name is Saray Addison. I'm the founder of Black Education Agenda. And Black Education Agenda is all about uplifting education in the Black community. I think it is imperative that we use our collective power to control and uplift the state of Black education. And so when I started Black Education Agenda, I wanted to have a way to contribute to some kind of national Black education purpose, statement, demand, and agenda. So this platform is used to guide what we as a community want Black folks to be educated about and what we must do to ensure that we attain that and sustain that.
Okay. So why don't you guys tell people just a little bit about, like what happened? Well, first of all, I guess how y'all met, and then what happened to get you to come up with the idea that the Black Education Conference should be a thing that we do.
I think I can take it because it started in a DM for me. So a mutual friend of ours, Amalu or Rakim, some people know him as Rakim, introduced us. He said, hey, I know this girl named Eva. I feel like you all would really hit it off. I just did a podcast with her. I'm going to connect the two of you because I think you all would do a really good podcast together. And I was like, yeah, connect me. I'm always willing. And so connected with Eva. The first call before the podcast, we were kind of venting and just expressing our our mutual experiences as Black women in the education system. And so we're both in higher education at this point. And so kind of over the span, having some similar experiences and wanting to do something about and improve the education that other Black children, other Black students, scholars across the K-12 space, as well as in higher education, could just like improve upon their experiences in education. And so recognizing that we both had the power to do so, recognizing that we both had organizations that wanted to do the same thing, not only just within the Black community, but also a conference, we decided, hey, let's do this thing. So I'm gonna kick it over to you too, and say, you can give your little spiel about how.
Yeah, no, I mean, you perfectly put it in a synopsis. Like, we were on the phone, we are chatting, talking about like, oh, you've experienced that. Nope, so have I. Oh, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. And I was just talking about like, how am I going to do all these things for myself? How am I going to organize a conference, like something that I really, really want to do? And she was like, I was just thinking of this, talking to my dad about it the other day. I was like, I was talking to my dad about it too. And from that day on, we had like weekly meetings, planning, organizing, asking folks. And then it just feels so, I can't stop smiling because it just feels so incredible to have made it to this day and to have all of you folks on here with us.
I mean, I remember the day you called me to tell me about the idea of Black on Black education. And, I was just immediately struck by like, wow. First of all, the energy that you call me with, not that you don't normally call with energy, but at that particular day, it was just, like you were floating around or something. And we had obviously had so many conversations, about education, but we never had thought about, what we could do, how we could actually do something about it. We kind of talked about it in the abstract, and it was I was just happy to immediately say let's do it. And I've had my ups and downs in terms of the year-long journey. I almost got fired a couple times, but we're definitely on the upswing as it pertains to Black on Black education. We're growing. We want to thank everybody who has decided to take their Saturday to join us. I literally, it becomes difficult to talk about sometimes, because when you have so many people that are willing to take their weekend in support of little Black boys and little girls, that's just it's bring me to my happy place. So thank you guys so much.
Absolutely.
We have an incredible agenda for you guys coming up over the course. There's going to be a number of panels. There's going to be a number of workshops. You guys can look at the schedule to kind of see how everything is going to flow. We'll do our best to make sure that all of the technology stuff is as great as it can be. We've had some issues in preparation, but now I think we're here now.
Full transparency.
Always full. I mean, education is about full transparency.
You have to
does something like this and just it all works. That just typically doesn't happen. So, I'm excited. We got our keynote speaker in the green room. Anybody want to say anything else before I introduce the man of the hour?
I think it would be cool to just talk a little bit more, Eva, about what you're doing in New York, and then I can give a little bit of spiel about who I am as well, beyond Black education agenda, beyond Black on Black education, because we're also educators. So talk a little bit about, what else you have going on.
Yes, absolutely. So I am a first-year core member with the Teach for America. I know there's a bunch of Teach for America folks on here. I will be teaching in the New York City core. So I am in the Bronx. I'm going to be an earth science special education teacher starting on September 8th. So all the educators on here, please send me all of the spirit fingers in the universe, because I am walking into an unprecedented year, as are all of you. And I know that I want to walk in that together. So any tips, tricks, anything that you got for me, please, Eva at blackonblackeducation.com. I will take all of that. And then only other thing that I wanted to say before we kind of hop off here and give the mic over to the amazing and wonderful Sharif El-Mekki, is if you do need support at any point during the conference, please email please email blackonblackeducation@gmail.com. We will have someone on that email all day to make sure that if there's anything thing that needs support with, that we get back to you as quick as we can. We're a small team. There's a lot more of you than us. So we will get, but we will get back to you as soon as we absolutely can. I cannot thank you enough. I'm going to be smiling all day. My cheeks are going to hurt.
That's how I feel. I feel like I can't stop smiling. I'm like, yeah. So yeah, great introduction. I also am a former core member from St. Louis. I did core in 2014. So it was a much different time. But I am also in support of any educators continuing. I have a nonprofit called Financial Friends Foundation, and it supports teaching financial capability or capacity to children in elementary school. So I believe in merging the two, financial literacy as well as financial experiences, to make sure that students really understand how to build successful financial futures. I also have a publishing and media company. I'm the author of Savannah Savings Jar, which is on Amazon. It's also in our expo. So we have an expo that you all can go and shop around in. It has some goodies from Black on Black education, some of our student panels from the other night, Black Vibe Tribe, as well as Kinsey Cosmetics, and some other great opportunities for you all in the expo. So definitely go check that out. I'm also the former vice president of the School District of University City School Board. And so if there are any school board members in here, thank you for joining and supporting us as well. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that I'm also currently a student at St. Louis University, receiving a PhD in education policy and equity. So I also want to shout out some of those teachers or professors from the education department that are here supporting as well.
All right. Both of these ladies' resumes are way better than mine, so mine really has nothing to do with education. So, we'll again just say that I am a proud father, and I am somebody who really wants to transform the education systems, and know that we can. And I know that we can because people are taking their time this morning to be with us, to move towards that effort. So I'm going to say goodbye to Eva and Saray for the time being, because it's time to get this thing kicked off with our keynote. So the person that I'm about to introduce, Mr. Sharif El-Mekki, we had him first. We had him as one of the first Black Education Transformation Award winners on our social media page. The Center for Black Education got a nice check from Mr. Tobias Harris from the Philadelphia 76ers. So we wanted to recognize him. At that point. Then we had him on our podcast, and the conversation was just incredible. It was enlightening. I absolutely positively loved it. I don't want to miss anything, so I'm actually going to kind of read some of this bio, and then I'm going to hand things off to Sharif. He started out in a non-traditional way in school, in a middle school in Iran, and then came back here for Overbrook High School. He's got his full academic scholarship to the University of PA. And then he had a brief stint as a social worker and counselor at the Youth Study Center, where he became a proactive and community-based. He became proactive about community-based impact, which led him to the work of building community-based schools. Sharif is the son of two Black Party Panther members, and I think that has has had a large influence on the work that he has wound up doing. This thing is, I could actually read it all day. I think you guys would much rather hear what Sharif has to say. So I'm just going to do the thing and just hand it off to Sharif to kick off the Black Education Conference. We appreciate you, Sharif. Take it away.
Thank you so much. I wanted to make sure that you could hear me, Jamal, before you rolled off, but hopefully, things are good and you can hear as well. One is great to be back with you. I shared before that, the work that you and Eva are doing is absolutely incredible. And I just get inspired, to see youth like Eva, leading the charge. It's one thing to have rhetoric around children are our future and all that kind of stuff. It's another thing to see it in action. And that's what I see in folks like Sister Eva and people like her. So I'm gonna, grateful to be here, and thanks again for the invite. I really wanted to frame the conversation, but before I jump into the how I want to discuss this, really we're in unique times, and we're in the same times, right? And so while the the attack on the communities comes in the form of a pandemic, we know that we've always been in a racist endemic, since next week, the August 25th, will actually be 401 years since some of our ancestors from Angola were sold in Jamestown, Virginia. And so, that endemic has been going on for a really long time. And I think our work, Eva and educators who are entering the field this fall, as well as those of us who've been around for decades, we understand that a lot of the work that people have done has been pulling leaves off of a tree that was grown in the manures of racism. And it is this point that we have, sometimes we have these reflection points. Do we pause and continue to prune the tree that we know is humongous, or do we attack the roots and really try to, when we talk about dismantling racism, dismantling institutional racism, a lot of times the same people that I see talking about that, they're pruning the tree instead of going deeper at the roots. They're pulling off leaves instead of digging deeper for sustainable change. I really want to talk about this work in the frame of Black educators and what their role can be, diving into the roots of this work. So basically, how do we power systemic and individual change, right? Not just, we can't just think about, oh, how am I going to address the system without interrogating our own biases, even if we come from the communities that we serve. What does it mean to go after educational justice in a deep and profound way? And how are we complicit, even as Black educators, in these systems? And so all summer I've been talking about, one of my favorite quotes from Frederick Douglass, because I hear a lot of people using the rhetoric, and I wanted to make sure that we are, one, reminding myself as well as the people in my orbit that we have to go, much deeper. So Frederick Douglass once said, "It is not the light that we need, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake." And so while we're thinking about this, this pandemic, and where we're thinking about this election, and we're thinking about the murders, the continuation of the public executions of Black men and women, what does it mean to be the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake, right? How does that play out, right? And particularly for Black educators, right? And not just for the recruitment of Black educators, but what does it mean for them to be able to be sustained in a powerful way throughout their time, both inside of schools and outside of schools? And so I want to, have like 5 challenges, just present 5 challenges. And I'm using the work of If You Listen, We Will Stay, Why Teachers of Color Leave and How to Disrupt Teacher Turnover. And this was a joint effort by teachplus.org as well as the edtrust.org organizations, right? And so what they did was they had teachers of color interview, just hundreds of teachers of color and survey them and really find out what keeps people from staying, what keeps Black and brown people from staying inside of these institutions, these schools, these districts, and so I want to share what they said as well as what they said would get them to stay, what would disrupt the turnover. And so one, they talk about this antagonistic culture that leaves them feeling unwelcome. They talked about feeling undervalued. And also Secretary John King used to talk about this idea of invisible tax, meaning the Black and brown people are paid the same, but asked to do far more, taking on more responsibility. Black men and women talked about being asked to mentor dozens of other students, many of them who they never even taught. They didn't know, except there was a white teacher who had trouble with them and said, "Hey, y'all look alike. you need to mentor them. But it wasn't just from colleagues, but it was also from administration. They talked about this idea of needing to, wanting to build the capacity of the entire school, not just themselves mentoring extra students, but giving them the opportunity to develop other people, other colleagues. But their administration did not feel that they were worth the investing. They didn't want to pay them, or they didn't want to give them the platform. They'd rather just send them the child themselves. And so they, Black teachers and brown teachers were talking about this being deprived of agency and autonomy. Their minds, their mental capacity, their intellectual gifts not being respected at the same levels. They talked about unfavorable working conditions, like how they were often, as Black and brown people, in some of the most decrepit buildings, where were most underfunded, and having to navigate that because of their commitment to those children that were forced to be in those same conditions. If it's unfavorable working condition, it's an unfavorable learning condition. And if people don't care that it's not conducive for learning, they're certainly not going to care that it's not conducive for teaching. And so all of this, the psychological impact that it has, cause it to be the challenges, but yet many of them still persisted. And so while these are the challenges frame, and we think about what is the whirlwind and an earthquake in that kind of situation, because they also came with solutions. They said that, some of the most important steps that districts can do, and this is something that we can all advocate for, this is something that can be our thunder, is the culturally responsiveness of their white colleagues. That is one of the most important things in order for Black teachers to stay. Like, there's a prerequisite, and one of them is that race, class, and privilege is addressed, that people are collectively held accountable, whether it's the administrators or colleagues of Black and brown teachers, that they are being developed consistently, not once in August and another time in February, but that there's a consistency in developing and interrogating the mindsets that are necessary for effective teaching. And if it's effective in teaching Black and brown children, it is likely going to have the reach to be effective in retention and of Black teachers, right? And so Black teachers should be culturally affirmed, and the goals and the values of the schools and the institutions should match the goals and the values of the Black teachers that they want to recruit and retain, right? Teachers' humanity, and again, if the students' humanity, if a Black child's humanity is not affirmed, there's no way in the world that a Black teacher's humanity is going to be affirmed, right? Unless that Black teacher has been brainwashed and has sided against the Black child. This investment, again, being compensated, being given the leadership and the resources to develop. We're not magical Negroes. So if we have a good relationship with Black children, that doesn't mean just give us more children to sprinkle magic pixie dust on top of them and get them to behave. If we have a good relationship with students and we're able to teach them effectively, then we should be given the opportunities. It is imperative that we are given the opportunity to access, time and space to develop other people in our community, in our buildings, in our district, so that we can build capacity. And so students don't have a good learning experience in one classroom, and then the next hour when the bell rings, they're having a miserable experience simply because of the color of their skin. And we know that happens throughout our schools and throughout our districts, right? And so this idea of the best way to recruit Black teachers is to have a sound retention plan for Black teachers. And that's what, what continually needs to happen. And so if we're thinking in that frame, and we're thinking about this idea of what does it take, I want to give a little bit more insight as far as how people are entering the schools. And so new teachers are saying that they are not prepared. And I spoke to a white teacher a couple of years ago, and she said, and she worked at the school that I was a principal of. And she said, not only was she grateful to be there, but she said the best professional development that she had was on a day-to-day basis, being in between two highly effective Black teachers. And and I asked her to share more. And she said, in addition to just the professional development that we might receive once or twice a week, and the coaching I may receive, she said, watching effective Black teachers talk to students who look like them, who they shared a similar background, seeing them and taking notes on how they engage with families, all of that informed her own work, informed her own work to interrogate her mindsets. And that is part of the role as Black educators as we are in these spaces. Because I'm going to read you a little, some alarming statistics about new teachers. When they were surveyed, they reported that they did not feel effective in schools filled with Black children. And we're not surprised about this, right? But, collection of this data was important. So 72% of new teachers, and this is a Pennsylvania study, but it's very consistent with surveys across the country for new teachers. And in Pennsylvania, we have over 100 teacher prep programs. Imagine that. 500 districts, over 100 teacher prep programs. And when new teachers were surveyed that came out of these prep programs, 72% said they felt unprepared to work in urban classrooms. Who's in urban classrooms? Black and brown and poor kids. 72% said, I'm not prepared. I don't know how much they paid in their loans or their tuition, but if there was any other industry where they said, hey, 72% of pilots are not prepared to fly a plane, yet they're in the cockpit. Imagine that. 72%. 52% felt unprepared to plan and deliver instruction to anybody, let alone students who need their teachers to be at their best. 48% felt unprepared to maintain high expectations for student learning. And we all know expectations is one of those funny things. People will reach wherever you set the rung. You set it low, that's the level of you should expect for student outcome. You set it high, students respond. But the most important thing, if you have low expectations for students, that means you actually have low expectations for yourself. 64% said that they felt unprepared to engage students in meaningful learning. What other type of learning is it besides meaningful? 64% felt they were unprepared to engage students in learning. And 62% felt unprepared to teach culturally diverse students. Again, these aren't people who are entering teacher prep programs. These are people who are new teachers who have been hired and vetted, and they did demos, and they're in front of students. So this is what I mean by the imperative for Black people. We need a Black educator revolution, because the people that are being sent out there, and let me add additional context. Pennsylvania, 96% of the teachers are white. 96%. And this is the data that we're getting back as far as if they feel their level of self-efficacy in educating our Black children. So we need a Black educator revolution. Folks who understand how to engage the youth. Folks who understand that you can't separate racial justice from educational justice. And so these are, this is the work. And I wanted to just give that additional context. And I know I'm up against time, but I wanted to just share a couple more things, if I may. So one, we're talking about the prerequisites for retention of Black teachers. How is trust being built? And understanding as educators, if parents went through this untrustworthy system themselves and for generations, I can tell you my grandparents did not trust the system, and they don't trust the system for my grandchildren, for their grandchildren, right? And so how does that happen? And then the other question I would challenge us is, in what ways does this pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement give us the opportunity to subvert the system, to go deeper than pruning the branches, but actually going into the roots and uprooting this system, dismantling, not disrupting, because you can disrupt something and it comes back. It morphs and it comes back, right? I had ants in my window when I was in college, and I would disrupt. I'd wipe the counter down. Next day, ants, I'd disrupt that pattern. It wasn't until I closed that hole that I eradicated, the ants that were coming in. The disruption did not do anything permanently. they just continue to come in. And so I would end with this quote by Lerone Bennett, where he said, "An educator in a system of oppression is either a revolutionary or an oppressor." And so I challenge all of us as Black educators, as we're entering a system that we know is corrupt, that we understand that we have a choice to make. We can do damage to the system, or we can do damage to the child. And Chris Emdin speaks about this frequently. We have a choice to make as we approach that work. We have a choice to make of who we decide our tribe will be in this educational system, who we're going to work with and who we're going to avoid. We have to take on that responsibility of self-interrogation. When Frederick Douglass talked about being the whirlwind, know that the first whirlwind, the first agitation that we have to do is within ourselves, to constantly check ourselves to see how much of this oppressive air, how much of this racist air have we ingested, and how do we make sure that we are eradicating, any, racial biases and the tendencies of the oppressors from within ourselves. Again, it is not the light that we need, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. And I hope as Black educators, we all commit to that and bring the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. This is exactly what Black children deserve. And we need to bring it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharif, for that wonderful keynote speech. I feel like you really set the tone for the reason as to why Eva and I presented this space. Just listening to your keynote, I was immediately touched by recognizing my charge as well as Eva's charge. You've helped me understand my position as well as Eva's. We are revolutionaries, Eva, and our version of eradication is providing Black Education Conference, right? We are creating this space so that we can transform the data that Sharif shared with all of us, and the level of preparation that educators and school communities have when they are charged to educate Black scholars. And so I want to leave you all with that. We are going to go to a 10-minute break or networking session. You all have somewhere on your screen a link where you can click to network. You will be partnered and paired with someone in the conference who also clicks that button. So what we want you all to do is just take some time to get to know someone in the conference and have a conversation about what your biggest takeaway from the keynote was. Because we need to start making connections across this education span. We have people from all over the country, as well as the UK, who are joining us today. So definitely take this opportunity to connect with someone and really have meaningful conversations about what we're going to do to ensure that this data is changed and that Black students are receiving everything that they need from our education spaces. Thank you.